Hello, and welcome to Invested, Advancing Women in Work and Wealth, brought to you by Baird. I'm your host, Angela Pittman-Taylor. On this podcast, we're having candid discussions with some of the most ambitious, high-achieving women in business today. This show is a resource for women who aspire to break barriers, build wealth, and gain wisdom along the way. Welcome to Invested. Julie, how are you today?
I'm doing good, Angela. Thank you. So excited for today's episode.
Me too. So that brings us to the topic for our conversation, which is caring for aging parents.
It's such an important topic. It is. It's something we all hopefully get to deal with, that we have parents around as they age, that we get to help them through that last stage of their life.
Absolutely. And it's such an important topic. And we have two very esteemed guests joining us today to talk us through it.
I'm so excited to introduce both Jessica and Chris. Have the pleasure of getting to work with them on different types of client scenarios, and nothing that they're more passionate about than this topic in particular. So got to know Jessica in 2022 when she joined Baird as a senior estate planner. But prior to that, she spent 15 years as a practicing attorney. So she's got great experience in the estate planning area. And we're going to talk about how this is such a big passion for her as well. And Dr. Chris Pierson, the CEO and founder of BlackCloak. Chris and I recently got to meet in Chicago and spend some time talking about all kinds of things, Chris. And we're going to have trouble today keeping narrowed down on just a few topics as they relate to this, but helping people with privacy issues. And Chris, I know this has been a very active time for you. And today we're going to talk about one of those areas in particular, but welcome you both. We're so pleased to have both of you join us.
That's great to be here.
Thank you, Julie. I'm really excited to be here.
And to start with, we'd like to hear a little bit more about your roles that you have today. And I know you both have some unique aspects of it that make this topic important to you. So, Chris, let's start with you and just share a little bit about what your role is at BlackCloak and how you got here and what makes this a topic that you're passionate about.
Yeah, so I'm the CEO founder of BlackCloak, and so BlackCloak is concierge cybersecurity and privacy protection. We're always trying to stay one step ahead of the cyber criminals, one step ahead, believe it or not, of nation states that are looking to compromise family offices, compromise folks with a lot of assets under management. We, BlackCloak, are a product company. We build, source our own software and technology to make sure we have the highest levels of security and privacy there. The biggest thing that I really try to focus on is making sure that our clients have peace of mind, that they're delighted each and every step of the way, and really try to play a hands-on role in that where I can. So great to be here.
Well, and part of your career before starting BlackCloak was really around fixing problems. So as you created BlackCloak, it was more to get in front of them, being more proactive and identifying those risks and mitigating them before the problems happened.
It's absolutely correct. I started, back in 2002, I started a cybersecurity practice at a large national law firm. It was all data breach and response related, which very much is, massively needed, but you're running to a fire after it's already been burning with a fire extinguisher. When I moved over to the Royal Bank of Scotland as a chief privacy officer there, when I moved over as chief information security officer for two different fintechs, and even in some government roles, it was always focused on, all right, we know that fires can happen, can exist, and incident response is really important. But can we actually go ahead and change the equation, change the game so that we're proactive, we're protecting people before they have exits, before bad things happen, before they're a target. You can't prevent everything, but can we greatly mitigate the chances of an impact of cybercrime or a privacy risk or a generation skipping privacy and cybersecurity harm? And so really it becomes a lot in terms of movement on prevention. Once again, we will absolutely put out the fire and make sure everyone's good in responding to the incidents, but we'd so much rather be there on the front end. And that's what excites me about today in today's conversation, is that for the folks listening, there's a great time and opportunity to be there thinking about, how does this apply to me? How does this apply to my parents? How does this apply to the ones that I love and need to keep right in good stead? And what can I do proactively there? So it just, all the things meet in the middle, and this is great.
Great. Well, we can't wait to hear some of those topics and some of your insights on that. Jessica, one of the things I learned about you, we work on so many estate planning issues, but I didn't realize how early in your career that elder care really became important to you, and some personal family reasons that really are behind that. Can you share a little bit about that?
Sure, Julie. So at Baird, I really work more in the estate planning realm, and so it's really a delight to talk about the elder law background. I'm a graduate of Wake Forest University School of Law, and one of the reasons I chose Wake Forest years ago was because of the elder law clinic that they had at the time. And that was just a fantastic opportunity for me to learn more about the subject. And I was interested because I really had a close relationship with both sets of grandparents growing up. And by the time I got to law school, I had one set left and they were getting older and I wanted to help them. And I just have always had a heart for seniors. I remember my parents taking us to nursing homes and we would go sing for nursing homes. And so I think that was instilled at a young age, and somehow over time that became what my passion was. And so the elder law clinic was probably my favorite class in law school, and we got to learn how to work with clients with diminished capacity, how to really listen in a client intake conversation. And we provided free legal advice to seniors, to folks over 65. And so it was just a fantastic opportunity, and certainly had many classmates that took it even though they weren't interested in elder law, just because of the great practice that it gave. And so I bring all that background with me to Baird, and it's been really fun to work with advisors kind of on the other side of things. And I think my job here is just to help them with wealth transfer techniques, to answer questions about trust. So I get emails and calls all the time. Hey, Jessica, what does this trust say? The trustee wants to do X, Y, Z. Can we do that? And there are a lot of issues that come up with that. And so I really act as a coach to the advisors and their clients. And it's fun because I get to see advisors provide the best experience possible to their clients. And anytime I can be a part of that and help them look good and help them win, it's a great thing. So.
Great. Well, we're so excited to have you here. And Angela, we really want to inform women who are often in that kind of CEO of the family role, taking care of not only the children, the people in our house, but also parents. And so we're looking forward to providing some good information around this particular topic to really help protect the elderly members of our family.
Absolutely.
Chris and Jessica, I'd love to hear from both of you. When you think about elder members of our family that are out there and in the world we're living in, what are really some of the biggest issues that they're facing, which even some issues that 20 years ago may not have been there, that we didn't have a roadmap because the generation before this didn't have those issues? What are some of those top things you think that are out there from an elder care perspective that we need to be aware of? And Chris, I'll start with you, because when I say things that didn't exist 20 years ago, that's kind of your whole world.
It is. I mean, if you believe it or not, it's like was the iPhone just started in 2008, so to speak, right around that time frame, and iPads, and just really things have changed. Look, when we think about elder care in the area of cybersecurity or privacy, the number one topic is going to be, how do you help harden your loved ones against scams, fraud, swindling, all the rest of that? So they were all taught early on how to answer the phone. Hi, Pierson residence, this is Chris Pierson speaking. How can I help you? Right? And so when people call on their cell phone, when people text and say, hey, how you doing? They're responding. They're responding to the email messages. They're responding to phone calls. The amount of scams that we see each and every day reaching out to this population is just, it knows no boundaries, right? Knows no boundaries. It really preys on persons that might be a little bit behind and lagging on technology, preys on people that kind of start with just that really good, wholesome heart. And so they're willing to listen, willing to pick up the phone. They're not really willing to hang up the phone immediately on folks. And that really puts them at risk in terms of at some point in time, their mind will shift from that hardened, rational thinking view into that passionate or fight or flight view. And the elderly, right, is really, really, right, potentially susceptible to these things, whether it is a voice phone call and it's some type of scam. We've seen that before. Whether it's a smishing message, so something comes over a text message and is sent to them, or it's a phishing message and it's by email, whether it's they do Google search. We just had someone this week do a search for a HP printer 1-800 number because things weren't going well. Well, the cyber criminals buy those ads, and the 1-800 number was literally calling the cyber criminal directly. How do you think about those things? So the scam portion of this is how do you take a population that really does need tech help, and it could just be IT help, and how do you go ahead and make sure that they're not scared to ask for help, not scared to ask questions, not scared to reach out, because what you don't want is a cyber criminal spending a lot of time with them. Oh my gosh, the guy was so sweet. Oh my gosh, they were the best helpline ever, right? So that's one of the big things there. And I think it's incumbent upon all of us. Look, we're not just responsible for our parents, helping them out on healthcare. We're helping them out on trust and estate matters like Jessica's doing. We're helping them with financial matters and home matters. We are their tech support system. We have to go step up and make sure they know. Under no circumstances are you to rush doing anything with anyone's. You can call me, email me, whatever, at any point in time. I'm here to help you, Mom. Here to help you, Dad. We got to get that out there. Second one thing that we see a lot of here is, right, kind of on the financial side, which I know, Baird just plays such a pivotal role in, but how are we actually talking to people about financial accounts, financial account access, financial account management, learning new systems and all the rest? Once again, incumbent upon us to help them move from highlighting and post-it notes in the old, expando files, like legal red files on, filing physical, tax returns, filing physical bank statements that come each month. How do we actually transition and shift them into this world so that they understand where they're operating and how they're operating? Just really, really critical, important. The third thing is, how can you be a steward to them and your brothers and sisters, and even into Gen 3, in terms of account access, planning for future stages. Who has account access? Who knows who's the name of the insurance person, the trust and estate person, private wealth manager? Who knows who the attorneys are? How is it all digitized? Not in a book that nobody knows where it is and they once saw it, but how do you actually really help out on that other planning for wills, trusts, and estates and kind of family planning? Because all the accounts are digital. It's not so easy to just go into the back closet and pull out and I got 10 physical statements here, the energy bill, electric bill, and whatever else for the home, right? All of those things are digitized. So you really do need to formulate a plan that is holistic around all those future life events on how are you going to go ahead and navigate that. And the key thing I'll say there is, it's not just family partners. You gotta, and I mean, it's just so great to talk to everyone today. You gotta have around the table the external partners that have your back, that understand the situation, that are there for you and rely upon them. That's the thing that I love the most, is how do you actually go ahead and try to make sure that you can make that happen and deliver delight, deliver joy in those areas. But it's all thinking about those things ahead of time. I'm going to stop there at the three things, but it's just such a great topic.
It's interesting to hear you talk about this because when I was helping my dad through some of these details, one of the biggest stumbling blocks that we ran into was going into some of the changes from the old way, the paper way, to the digital way, and the challenge of, doing the new thing and the trust around, okay, now it just lives in the air. It's not in my hand anymore. How do you help your parents navigate from that, kind of old way into the new way? Can you talk us through, how do you make that transition? How do you help them get into some of that, kind of newer way?
Yeah, I will tell you, I mean, I really feel like the crux of this comes into that personal hand-holding relationship. And so what it means is literally spending the Saturday, staying overnight on the Sunday, spend that day and a half, and walking down, right, the electric account, the cable account, the phone, the gas line, whatever it is, walking down all those accounts, walking down the financial accounts, walking down the healthcare record accounts. It's maybe some 10 to 15 key accounts, right? We don't have to spend time on the Amazon account. I mean, you could if you have bonus time to spend, but let's focus on the main ones. Let's actually go ahead and show and log in and show the access, get those into a password vault. Let's show how to navigate. Let's make sure the email addresses are correct, the phone numbers are correct. Make sure they know. Some of the biggest comforting things people want is they want the ability to print if they decide to do so. And on almost everything, you can go up and it's got the PDF right there, and you can actually log in and say, hey, once a month, once every 3 months, you can go in and print out these, statements. And if it gives you comfort, provides you comfort, put them in a nice, safe place in the home, shred them at the end of the year. You'll even come over at the holidays if they agree to get you a new pie or something. Like arms together. But right, I mean, who knew we'd be talking about pies? But like arms together and actually do it with them and for them together. That day and a half that you spend setting things up, you don't only need to do the maintenance mode of right at the half year and all rest, but it takes out the tech and the scariness of the tech. It removes it from them. So they're on the iPads. They're not on the computers as much anymore. They're on the iPads. Drag and bring all the icons together for all the utilities. Bring all the financial icons in together in a folder. You have them there in the folder. You can show them once again how to do things. They can print from their iPad into the printer and see the PDF and all the rest of the stuff. There you go. If you want the paper, you got the paper at the end of the year. You come by, you grab it all up, and you shred it for the next year's stuff. These are all really, really easy ways to not say, no, you got to do it my way. They don't. Let's have them do it in a way that makes sense. And I will tell you, is that reducing the number of bills that come in a hard copy to the mailbox is going to reduce the chances of identity theft. And of course, it depends on where you live and private. But once again, let's go ahead and meet them where they are. They love the paper. They love being able to access the paper. Let's show them. It's not that big of a deal, and doing it in person couldn't be a better time and place to do it in my mind.
Thank you, Chris. Some great advice and some things that you said that I want Jessica to follow up on, because what you started talking about, that collaboration, involves family conversations. So Jessica, I know you've been a great facilitator of those. How do we start those family conversations with siblings and then with our parents so that we're still fostering their independence but making them feel safe and protected and making sure that they are? How do those family conversations get started?
Yeah, great question. And that is, I think, one of the hardest things for people to do is know how to start those conversations. And so what I think from a baseline, always as much open and honest communication and healthy communication among, between you and your siblings and with your parents is key. So we want to try to have that baseline as much as possible. Treat each other with respect, with dignity. Even if you don't agree with how someone else would do something, try to look at it from their perspective and not just say, hey, this is the way we should do it. And so one of the ways I try to open up conversations with people is to think about what motivates that person. And so you're going to have to do a little bit of thinking here, but say, hey, what's going to speak to mom on this? What's going to speak to dad? And take it from that angle. So for some people, that may be bringing up a story about a celebrity. Celebrities are notorious for failing to do estate planning. And so they get in the news for all kinds of reasons. So that could be one. You bring that up and say, Mom, did you hear about so-and-so? And talk about it. Open the door to, hey, that makes me think. What have you done? What's in place? Another way is, of course, being in the sandwich generation, we have friends who are going through kind of issues that are a few steps down the road from where you may be. And I think bring that up, especially if it's someone your parent knows or your siblings know, or you can even just take it from your own life as well and just say, hey, I heard this story and it really made me think. We should probably talk about this, Mom. Let's talk about it. And that's another good way to open the door. And then the final way is to just use yourself and say, you know what? I just revisited my own estate planning. We're doing this. And it just made me think, what do you have in place? So those are the basic ways. A lot of seniors are concerned about losing their independence, losing their dignity, having people think that they are less capable than they used to be. So a lot of times I'll come at it from the situation of, everybody should do this. Everyone at every stage. And so even one thing I use right now is our eldest daughter just turned 18. And so we had her do basic estate planning documents because that's just a good thing. No one's going to argue with the 18-year-old having to do estate planning and say, oh, I don't need to do that when they're, 75. So I think just using examples from your own life can be a great opportunity to open that door.
That sounds great. Like speaking in parables, but also from real life experiences is helping. I know in our family, we've actually assigned topics in our family. Like no one's going to ask anyone in my generation a tech question. Our son, he's the tech person for the whole family. Our daughter's a real estate agent. When anyone's buying a house, they talk to her about buying a house. And so everyone kind of has a role in the family. My sister is the healthcare expert. She'll fight anyone's health insurance claims. So we not only told our parents, feel free to ask us, but we've actually assigned topics of who in the family is responsible for what topic, so that, and then we all use them for that topic. It's not just my parents. It's family's family, and we all have our roles, and everyone needs to kind of play to their strengths. So, Jessica, one of the other things we talk about that's very difficult is when I was just talking to my mom this morning. She was going to go visit a friend of hers who's 90. My mom's 90. Her friend's 95, and she just had to move out of her house into assisted living, and what a difficult conversation that was. When's the right time to start that conversation?
So I actually think having that conversation as early as possible and as often as possible is helpful, just because that can be at a stage where it's not threatening. And if you start seeding it into the conversation regularly, then it's not so much of a shock and a threat when it does come up. And sometimes, though, that's not always possible. Not every parent wants to talk about that. But the examples I gave earlier about just trying to find what motivates them and what speaks to them to open the door to that conversation is really useful. In my law practice, a lot of times it would be when mom or dad had a fall and children would come to me and, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? In that situation, or where we're, much closer to the time where someone may need to make a change in their living situation, I think it's really helpful to have a third party step in. And so one of the resources that I would use regularly was a care manager. They're called aging life care managers. You may have heard of geriatric care managers or just overall care managers. And that person would come in, do an assessment of the senior, do an assessment of the home, and with their knowledge and background in geriatrics, could say, okay, here are the threats in the home, here are the safety issues, and here's what we can do to mitigate that. If we change this, put in a handrail, modify this step, mom or dad can stay in the house longer. Or they might say, you know what, this situation is just not working out at all, either because of where the parent is cognitively and physically, or just because of the layout of the home. And having that information presented by a neutral third party always seemed to go over easier than coming from the child. It just helps to have it come from a third party who has independent training in it. And those are invaluable resources.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Jessica. Also, sometimes siblings have different views, and that kind of takes it out of it. Let's just see what the expert has to say, and not have siblings sit around and debate it in front of mom and dad. I think that's a wonderful thought. Chris, can you tell us about some things that really provide that professional help that may be appropriate in many situations, but what's kind of the just ground level things that we can do to help protect our parents, like freezing their credit reports, putting them on a no-call list? What are just some of those specific action steps that we can take to kind of monitor or make sure we've done some of just the basic protections?
Yeah, it's a great question. But think about them in a few quadrants. First, on the privacy side, what you really want to do is make sure that less cyber criminals, less adversaries are able to reach out to, let's just say, your mom and dad, so to speak. And the way you do that is by removing their information from databases that are called data broker websites, data broker databases. If their name and address and phone number and email address and your date of birth or whatever are not there, right? They can't be preyed upon as easily. They're not a really as high profile a target. So what we want to do is make sure that they are a harder target to hit because their information is not available on those data broker websites. Really, that's one of the big number one things on privacy. Second thing there on privacy is going to be identity theft. Putting a credit freeze in place on Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion is going to freeze their credit. No one is going to be able to apply for a credit card, a new bank account, et cetera, in their name. We're not talking about credit monitoring, we're just credit freeze. It's free to do. You can do it with your parents, you can do it for your parents. It does take some time, but that's a really good first step. Second area is going to be on the devices side, right? On the devices side, making sure that all their devices are virus free, are protected, is going to be absolutely key, absolutely critical. But the thing that people forget a lot is it's not just about the device. The devices really today are a keyboard and a monitor. They're different sizes, different types, but it's just a keyboard and monitor. All the information is in the cloud. All the information is in their email account. So the one thing we want to do there is, let's just say it's Gmail. One thing we want to do is make sure on their Gmail account that they have dual factor authentication turned on. So their username and their password, they're probably going to have a weak password and all the rest. You can try changing it, try this and try that, lots of things, but just keeping it simple. If you have dual factor authentication turned on, so you get a code texted to your phone, it's not the perfect level of security, but it will raise you up from 5% secure to 80% secure. So getting that code texted to you before you log into your Gmail, and you can just do it once on that computer and click OK. That's great. What it will do is it will prevent a cyber criminal who has your username and password from also logging in because they don't get that code. And so dual factor authentication there. The third area is the home. What we want to do is, look, the homes are living, breathing entities. Doesn't matter how old or young you are, everyone has a smart home these days. You got Disney, Hulu, Netflix, Amazon coming in through the TVs. You got the Ring doorbell cam. Probably you've actually insisted your parents get the Ring doorbell cam, that they insisted that they have the Nest thermostat. You've insisted that they have some cameras outside the home and all the rest of the garage door so you can help monitor them. All of that is great. It's great technology. What you got to do is protect it. The way you protect it is, number one, make sure everything's set to automatically update. Two, back to what I just said, username or password alone aren't going to cut it. You have to have dual factor authentication turned on. Once again, a code that gets texted to you for that login. Those are the three main pieces. The one from before that I mentioned is really the saving grace. It is the harden the human. Harden the human means talk to your family about scams that are going to happen. The FBI is not going to come calling you. The sheriff is not coming to your front door and hauling you away for those unpaid parking tickets. The IRS, similarly, they're not coming by either. Your Apple account, your bank account, they didn't lose your social security number and they're not going to shut you down. None of those things are going to happen. So, hey, mom, dad, when you get anything that brings you to an immediate action, account closure, account, being turned off, losing money, losing this, losing that, people in blue vests coming over to arrest you and stuff like that. Whenever you do that, Julie, just at the same point, get a point person at that family that is in charge that these things are coming to. And it's just we want you to phone a friend. Hang up with the person, hang up. And it's not rude. You have to literally say, it is not rude to hang up. You're going to hang up on them. You're going to call me. We're going to talk about it. And it probably will be fake if you worry that Acme Bank was really legitimate. You and I will get on a third-party call with them together, and we'll call the known 1-800 number that's actually on your bill. But we're not asking you to be rude. You're going to just reach out to me to pass them all through me. Nothing's going to happen. That hardening the human one is really tough. And finally, matters of the heart are hitting really hard. We're living longer than ever. People are having sometimes new romantic relationships later in life, sometimes widows and widowers. And we see a lot of people preying on those emotions. We actually just had somebody pass off $500,000 to two mystery gentlemen. And the kids really wanted the individual to, right? They wanted them to kind of get some companionship. But ended up putting out 350 in one instance, 150,000 in another instance to people that were trying to cross the borders, but they couldn't, and they got bills they had to pay and Department of State problems and all the rest. And it finally took a third party. The kids couldn't convince mom that it was fake. We were able to, back to the point of having that third party that Jessica mentioned, right? Sometimes you need that third party helper. We were able to go through the scam and tell them exactly what was happening. She's like, yeah, that actually happened. We're like, go ahead and email back. This is what the next ploy will be. And boom, it's the next ploy. We're able to gain the trusted relationship, able to cut it off there. But we gotta really focus on that. So be there, right? I like what Julie said. Be there for your family. Make sure they know. Don't assume or presume they know.
That great advice. And it kind of leads me to one of the other things I wanted to talk about today, and that's the future. People are living longer than they were 20 or 30 years ago. So that brings with it a whole host of new issues. But let's look, Chris certainly wants you to talk about AI and what that means, and also just what things might be happening in the future that might be helpful as we age. I know in my situation, I'm counting on no one's ever going to have to take the keys away from me because self-driving cars are going to be real and they'll take me wherever I want to go. So that's one of the things that I hope will be out there in the future to make it better to age in the future than it is today. Jessica, let's, a little from your standpoint, when you think about the future as we're all aging, what do you see as either innovations, cultural changes, things that may actually be helpful, and then other things that may make it even more challenging to take care of the elder members of our family when you look out into the future?
Like you mentioned, Julie, our population is rapidly aging. And I think according to the census, that is starting in 2030, then that's when all baby boomers will be over 65. There will be more seniors at that time than there are children under 18. So that's a huge shift in demographics. And of course, with more people living to older ages, there's going to be just more opportunities for innovation. And so I think one of the big things that's going to happen that I'm looking forward to seeing what innovations come about is a change in living arrangements and caregiving arrangements. I can pretty much guarantee you the baby boomers, they want other options. They don't want that. And so I think there's going to be a lot of innovation around that. And I hope there is. I hope there are more respectful living arrangements or ones that people actually want to be in, maybe community living. I just think there'll be a lot of innovation around that. And then I would say on the opposite side, from the threat side, and this is really Chris's expertise, but elder abuse and fraud is only going to increase. I mean, like he was talking about with the romance scams, those are going to get more and more prevalent. That is something that I saw in my practice. And we see at Baird too, we see people trying to prey on seniors and try to get their money. So a lot of times it's a caregiver, a new romantic interest who swoops in, sees the opportunity. It's just going to grow and grow. So I think putting all of the tips and practices in place that we've heard today, I mean, Chris had some great tips that I am writing down to use. So that will really help.
And Chris, future, what's your crystal ball look like, and how is that going to be helpful to our elderly population, and how is it just going to make it harder to protect them going forward?
We'll hit the negative side first, but then we're going to do a little bit of the, hey, how do we get a glass half full on this thing? So look, the ability to finally target individuals and convince them of whatever it is, right? Transfer money to go ahead and log into different accounts, to download software, whatever, is increasing. It's increasing because 5 years ago, the ability to actually create a fake persona, a deep fake voice or deep fake face and video. Look, this was like the George Lucas Industrial Light and Magic, 300 people in a back room, supercomputers, and it would take 9 months to generate 30 seconds of video, right? And you could still tell. Well, about a year and a half ago, this is basically all transcended, and with 3 seconds of audio, one picture, you can create a 30-second clip using a Chromebook by just uploading it to a random website and create a picture, create a video, create a voice. You can do live, real time, right? Chatting with somebody over a video medium where you actually can make yourself look like someone they know, love, or trust. And it's going to fake people out, right? And so we are seeing and have seen a rise of voice impersonation and video impersonation. It has hit this population. It will only grow in terms of the impact, in terms of financial take, and cyber criminals are onto this. The playing fields have been really leveled out, and this is no longer a $300 million investment. This is literally a $50, $100 laptop and a little bit of funds, which you've probably stolen from elsewhere, to go ahead and do these uploads. I mean, yeah, a lot of them are free, but you can really, really create something that's convincing pretty easily. We're seeing it. They're in the wild. They're happening. You got to be super careful. I will tell people, I mean, right now there are a few different solutions and stuff that you can go ahead and deploy here. One of the easiest ones is back from when your parents were, when you were younger and all the rest, and they say, hey, in case you're kidnapped, you remember always the old stories of the car pulls up the bus stop and yanks you in or whatever. It's like, what is the keyword? What's the safe word if I have to get in an accident and I have to have somebody come and pick you up, right? Because we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have any of that stuff. And, back to the safe word. What is that one true safe word that you can ask, your parents can ask the whoever's calling, purporting to be you or whatever about? You can do that. You can set it up so you do a different one every month. You can do a different one until you burn that one and use that one. That's one real simple suggestion. On the glass half full, look, bottom line is, yes, the adversaries are using this technology to target us more and more and more. But on the positive side, look, we have the ability to go live real-time video on our phones immediately to our loved ones. We have the ability to call them and text them. We have the ability to, hey, show me that you're actually at home. Walk around your home so I can see that it's you. Walk outside. I want to see Fluffy the dog, right? You're able to do that in a way that actually can defeat a lot of this type of technology. So we have technology in our hands, in our pockets, that can actually help sustain us through this increase of targeted AI and deepfakes towards this population. So there is a glass half full there. The other thing is that this is a great time and place to have that conversation with our parents, with the elderly, on these different methods, attack methods, and really make sure everyone is trained. All that they have to do is stop time from moving forward. And that means pausing a conversation, using a different line to a good known number, hanging up on the call and doing something else. Your mom and dad, they're not going to get, right? If it was really you calling, you're not going to get offended that they hung up on you. You're going to praise them. Good move, great move, call the home phone, whatever. There are ways around this, and it is the human mind stopping, slowing down time, getting help from somebody else that can give you an objective viewpoint, and then educating people. I hope a lot of people are going to watch this. I know a lot of people will watch this, and really getting this out there in front of folks and having the conversation. To Jessica's point, it's all about the conversation. Got to happen early and often so that it builds up that natural defense to say, something doesn't seem right. I know that my son, my daughter, my private wealth manager, my connected person here has talked to me about this and told me about it. I can recognize the pattern. And as a result, I'm going to pause, take a few minutes, think about it, and go in a different direction. And I think that's really, really going to be huge in terms of defending those attacks. Really huge.
Just great advice. I love that safe word. Jessica, I love something that you said when you're thinking about the future, about you think people will want to live in different type of communities. And so much of that is in keeping with the research that's coming out now about people's well-being. And especially as we age, one of the most important components to that is socialization. Even some would say more important to your well-being than exercise or eating well is your socialization. So any changes that you see happening or on the horizon, or proactive things that families are doing just to help with the loneliness that's out there, especially in a post-COVID world?
Well, I think one of the things is to keep in contact. If the family has grandchildren, any way you can keep in contact with them. And so FaceTime is great for that. Some sort of digital photo receiver where you can easily upload photos and they can see what the grandkids are doing, see what the family's doing. Even if they have a grand dog, get the grand dog on there so they can see what's going on, and that helps feel connected. So those are my
Right.
biggest tips.
Well, we'd like to end with action steps at the end of every conversation. The 2 or 3 things that are action items everyone should take either for themselves or for their parents when they are through listening to the podcast today.
First and foremost, have a meeting, have a conversation, hopefully with your Gen 2 siblings, right? Get everyone together. I love that every person is going ahead and figuring out a different area that they're expertise in. One could be on the healthcare side, other than the real estate side, other than the finances side, somebody on the cyber and IT side, right? We need someone there. So figure out it amongst yourselves, kind of like what the RACI chart is, so to speak, about who's accountable, right? Who's responsible, who's consulted, who's informed on the different life big buckets that we could do there among that. So that's number one. Have the conversation, get on the same page. Biggest thing ever to defeat any of these things. Problems are going to happen. Cyber, trust and estate-wise, health-wise, life-wise. Got to make sure everyone is on the same page, rowing in the same direction. So number one. Number two, on the cybersecurity and privacy side, I think we've given some good tips on how to shrink that attack surface. Gotta focus on shrinking the attack surface so you're less likely to be a victim, less likely to be someone that is attacked, less likely for an attacker to actually be able to kind of hook their teeth in you, so to speak, there. And so we've given some good items there in terms of credit freeze and data broker removal and the such. I think that's going to be critically important. The third one is going to be really talking about how you're actually going to, right, be resilient to the different attacks, cyber attacks, scam attacks, fraud attacks that are coming inbound, because it's not going to be possible that always someone is available. So how are you going to work with others, right back to Jess's point, making sure you're surrounding yourself with a whole ecosystem, holistic protection here, hub and spoke on the different things. How are you going to do that on the cyber and privacy realm? Because it does touch every single aspect of what is going on, what is happening. And I think we gotta have those conversations now, have them early, have them often, and really find out more and make sure everyone's on the same page. Much better to do it now than later on. The attacks are happening, the thefts are happening, right? The harm is happening, but you can be so much more resilient to them and really defeat them. So I think let's do those 3 things and we'll be in a really good place for 2025.
Appreciate that. Great advice. Jessica, from the standpoint of people that are like, we really don't, mom and dad never talk about a lot of things. So we just really don't know what's in their estate plan, what their financial assets, that we don't know. What are the action items that people can take to start to get their parents comfortable with sharing that, and also to increase their level of understanding to be able to help that?
Well, I think we go back to find out what they have and open the door to that conversation. So the techniques we talked about earlier, it really boils down to what's going to speak to mom or dad. And you want to think about their personality, what they fear, what they trust, what motivates them before having that conversation. And then find out what they have. And as part of that, we really want to make sure, I'm an attorney, so I want to get this, I hammer this all the time. We need basic estate planning documents in order. So most people think of a will or a trust in that situation, but and those are important. But a lot of times what's even more important than that are what I call the ancillary documents. So that's your durable or general power of attorney for finances, your healthcare power of attorney for healthcare decisions, possibly a living will, so that they can state what sorts of interventions they do or don't want at the end of their life. Maybe even a standalone HIPAA release so that you can actually talk to the doctors and your siblings can talk to the doctors before that healthcare power of attorney is triggered. So those are all really important foundational documents that everyone needs, because without them, If your parent loses capacity, especially with the durable power of attorney, and often with the healthcare, you'd have to have a guardian. It's called a guardianship in some states. It's called a conservatorship in others. And I have so many horror stories about those. And you can look up many horror stories about those on the internet as well. That actually happened. So try to avoid that situation if possible. And so once you have those foundational documents in place, make sure that the beneficiaries on their accounts align with their overall estate plan. And by accounts, I mean things like their IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, insurance policies, bank accounts, anything that's transfer on death. Just double check those, make sure it's what they think it is. I'm telling you, a lot of times it's not what people think it is. So go back and double check that. And then finally, one thing I want to point out is that some people don't have children and they don't have siblings that are younger upon whom they can rely. And so what do I do in that situation? I would encourage them to find some sort of group, get involved with a faith community, a group of hobbyists, bird watchers, just a group of people that have like-minded interests with you and develop relationships so that there's someone you can trust. And potentially one of those people, if they're trustworthy, could act on your behalf. If there's really no options there are quite a few corporations that can act in these capacities in a professional capacity. So there are resources out there. Don't feel like all is lost if you don't have family members to help you.
Great advice, Jessica. Angela, I don't know about you, but I've been taking notes and I've got a long list of things that I want to do, both with my mom and just some great advice from Chris and Jessica today. Thank you all so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. What a fantastic conversation. Chris, if people want to hear more about your advice or connect with you online, where can they find you?
So come to BlackCloak, BlackCloak.io. That's BlackCloak.io. And you can download materials about BlackCloak, what we do, how we help high net worth, ultra net worth individuals on their cybersecurity and privacy journey. So happy to do that.
Fantastic. And Jessica, how about you?
Well, the best way to reach me is through your local Baird advisor. So reach out to them. They know where to find me. And then if you also just want to connect with me outside of that, I'm on LinkedIn as well. So it's Jessica Bell Attorney.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you, Julie. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you all. It's been great.